Hello, everyone. So bug bounty has grown so much in the past years. 10 years ago, we didn't hear much about bug bounties. 5 years ago, it was way more spread. And today, I guess everyone in the cybersecurity knows a lot about bug bounties. In bug bounty, there is around more than 1 million hackers doing actively hunting on platforms, such as HackerOne, Bugcrowd, and new ones coming up. And so out of this 1 million, approximately 1 million people doing bug bounty, only around 5% of the people are actually doing and finding good bugs and earning good incomes every month. So what's the difference? What makes some hackers being great at doing bug bounties and some hackers being less great and finding less bugs? I think that the main thing and the most important thing in bug bounty is finding the good assets, finding these hidden gems where you are going to be able to find these critical vulnerabilities and, like other people say, some easy wins. So how do you find those interesting assets and how do you find those hidden subdomains, IPs, VHOST, and everything else that might be related to an organization? This is all done via Reconnaissance, and this is all done via Recon, and a lot of time that you have to spend to be able to find everything that is hidden. So to start, little introduction about me. I'm Hussein Daher, CEO of Immunify. I have over a decade in cybersecurity field and precisely in the bug bounty field and pen testing field. I do have a business master's degree, but we are doing cybersecurity nowadays. I have over 1,000 vulnerabilities found altogether on platforms, let it be HackerOne, Bugcrowd, Integrity, and everything else. And I have won a couple awards, and I have also a Udemy course, which is called an advanced guide to finding good bugs, which counts around 1,800 students. So we'll jump right into the subject, and we'll try to answer the questions in the end. If you have anything, please keep it for the end, and we will try to go through everything. So the importance of Reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is the first and one of in the bug bounty process. It involves gathering as much information as possible about the target to identify potential weaknesses and entry points. Is it good? So Reconnaissance is what is going to determine if your hacking session is going to be good or not. The most assets you have for an organization, the most attack surface you have, which allows you to find some stuff that you might not be able to find if you haven't done recon in a good and precise way. So identifying potential attack surfaces are the very points in a system where an unauthorized user can try to enter data or to extract data from. Identifying these surfaces involves, So I've been able to take over FIS one spot in under 6 months with perseverance of recon. When I started hacking on crowd, sorry, can you have someone that just take this one? Thank you. Sorry for that. So now I think it's going to be way better. So when I started hacking on FIS on Bugcrowd, there was around 1,000 vulnerabilities which were already reported to the company. And one might say, oops, this is too much crowded. I'm not going to be able to find any vulnerability on this specific program. But once you start doing some good reconnaissance, and you have some good web application hacking skills, I think that everything is possible and you are going to be able to find some interesting findings. So how did this happen? When I started hacking on FIS, I spent around 1 month only doing just recon, just trying to find some very hidden assets and trying to know more and more about the company before starting hacking on them actually. FIS, Fidelity National, is a large organization and their bug bounty program is about everything they own. Scope,
This gives us this huge attack surface to look at. But when you have that, most of the time you say, oops, this scope is too big. I don't know where to start, what I should do, how I should approach this specific target. And so this is where some people just give up and just cancel hacking on this kind of big scope organization. The methodologies which I have are very simple, and this is things that are mostly known. But the problem is that today and nowadays, people try to overcomplicate things. They are going to tell you, okay, you have to have this specific tool and tens of tools to try to do recon. Like we need an enumeration tools for subdomain enumeration tools nowadays, as much as there is so much subdomain enumeration tools nowadays. So the main thing that you have to know is subdomain enumerating, VHOST identification, ASN mapping, web fuzzing, dorking, and other tips and tricks which might help you combine stuff from here and here to try to find more and more assets and endpoints to hack on. Subdomain enumeration, we are going to go very quick on these little things, and then we will focus mostly on dorking for today. But let's go. So identifying subdomains will give you a bigger attack surface, that's for sure. Look for pre-prod/environment subdomains, so subdomains that are not yet deployed on the internet, or maybe something which contains some codes which the main domains, the production domains, don't have. And perform recursive brute forcing. This is very important. So fuzz.host, if you find some subdomains, are going to again recursive brute force this specific subdomain. The good old script, we all know about AMAS, we all know about sublister, but there is this tool which was shared maybe not too long ago, which is called bbot. And I have tried this script, this subdomain enumeration tool, and it's likely going to find around 25 or 50% more results than other bug bounty tools to enumerate subdomains. So this tool has, right, so if you try on ebay.com, for example, with bbot, you are going to have 5,000 results. On other subdomain enumeration scripts, such as One4All, Subfinder, and others, you are going to have way less subdomains found. So I urge you, if you want, you can try this tool and try to see the difference with your current tools. So VHOST identification. Less people deep into VHOST. Most of the time, people will just do subdomains and start hacking on some organization, but that's not how it works on very big organization. When I speak about very big companies, so you have FIS, you have Yahoo, for example, which also accepts all kind of assets they own. So you can hack on very big scopes. But most of the time on these big companies, what has been a huge success for me was identifying the VHOSTs, because the VHOSTs on the right IPs are going to lead you to a lot of hidden stuff, which most of the people are not seeing on subdomains and other things. So identifying this will give you targets most people haven't seen yet, and you have to be able to spot the differences very quick to be able to know which is a good VHOST and what is not. So for example, in this specific screenshot, what we do is that I love doing burp suite and trader with some IPs. So I'm just going to get the IPs of some companies, and then I'm just going one by one to throw it on burp and trader and brute force the host header and try to find something interesting within the IP. And most of the time with the host header, it's just going to be all the subdomains that I have discovered from that specific company against the IP of that specific company in one of their ASN branches. So the results is that we can see that we have the first one is 302 and all the others are 404, so that we know that we have identified a good VHOST around this IP with this specific domain name. So something that some people don't know and haven't yet seen and tried is that most of the time there is some IPs which might not resolve. You think that it doesn't resolve, But once you send it to, for example, Burp Suite and Reader, you are going to see connection reset. So it's not loading. It's not going to show any error or any 403 message or anything. It just says connection reset. And some people will just think, oh, this IP is not going to work with me. However, if you send the right host header, this IP is going to respond with actually a good message. So if you ever see connection reset on some targets, some IPs or some domains, don't assume that the host is not reachable, that you can't reach the host. You can reach the host with the right header and the right parameters that you have to send it. This is just some kind of protections some companies put in place so people can just access some data without having the right host header and authorization to do so. So when I sent this specific IP to intruder and I have brute forced with the right subdomains on the host header, I can see that some subdomains on the host header responded with some valid response and some other timed out. So the connection reset are the not valid ones and the ones upside are the ones which were actually valid. And this gives us way big attack surface again, because most of the time, some other hackers are not going to look into this kind of things. So most people don't know what is happening. ASN mapping. What I like doing a lot is on big organizations again, is mapping out the whole ASN of the organization, finding all the IPs that they own, and from there we can easily try to reverse and find some really interesting subdomains. So for that, I like using bgp.he.net, which when you send it some organization name, for example, Facebook here, you are going to get all the IPs which Facebook owns in its ranges. And so we can copy all the ranges from the specific list that we had from bgp.he.net. We put it inside a text file, and then we send it to preps. Preps, which is print IPs, we're just going to print all the IPs that are owned by Facebook. And once we have all the IPs, we can now start gathering subdomains for the organization. So you can gather subdomains of organization using subdomain enumeration tools or other things that you might know of. But keep the IPs list in one file and keep the subdomains list in one file. And once you have both of them, you can now try to brute force IPs and subdomains together. So what do I mean by that? Is that you are going to take every IP and you are going to take the subdomain word list that you have gathered, and you are going to put every of that inside the host header and send it to the IPs of the organization. And we can do it very quickly by using FFuf, which is a very good tool to fuzzing. And then you can just do it in one line like this and wait for the results. And most of the time, you are going to find some subdomains which are going to resolve on some IPs, which might not be working if you open it from the internet itself directly. So what I love doing is brute forcing using FFuf. I love crawling using Katana tool from the, and also I love such as Wayback Machine and URL shorteners. So why do I use FFuf to brute force directories of assets that I have? Back in the days, we were all using Deerbuster, and then there was some tool, Deer Search, which came up, and now there is FFuf. FFuf is a very fast tool in Golang, which is very customizable. You can just customize as you want. You can filter by size, filter by lines, you can filter by regex. So it gives you a whole lot of possibilities to find the valid dirs and file names and extensions over target. So using Katana, we can crawl. So this is very fast. Also, I think it's in Golang too. It's very quick. So you give it a list of links, and it's going to crawl the whole things and give you back all the links found inside the things that you asked it to crawl. We also use archives such as Wayback Machine to find some links on that specific host too, which were archived by internet in the past. And also, most of you know URL shorteners. So you are going to reverse those to find the actual links of the company which were shortened in the past. So we have to create custom word lists of applications. So one, we gather all the links you can find of the target using Katana, GAU, and other. Two, we're going to save all in one file and sort unique. So that's what we do here. We have, for example, use GAU tool, which is used to gather all data from Wayback Machine and Alien Vault, etc. And then we save it inside one file. And then we're going to run Linkfinder on that specific list. Linkfinder, which is a tool that helps you find some links and some endpoints inside JavaScript files, but you can also run it on HTML files and every kind of file to try to find some endpoints and some HTTP links inside some links. And so what we do here is that we are using a tool, which is a parallel tool to launch Linkfinder instances of it to find some interesting links using the list of subdomains that we had. And so after doing that, Linkfinder is going to give us back a list of links and endpoints that we found. And so now we have a custom word list made for the application that we made out of Katana, Linkfinder, and other sources. And so finally, sort unique from Linkfinder and crawling and create the word list that you're going to use on all of the assets of the organization. So fuse the subdomains IPs of the org with this word list and keep adding new passes, such file endpoints you have found to your word list. Your word list should always be updated. It's just not one thing that you have one time and you don't update it anytime. You just use the same word list every time. Every time you find some interesting endpoints, interesting passes, you have to add them to your word list again and again so that you keep having some fresh and good things in your word list. So one of the main topics that I wanted to speak about is dorking. So we are going to speak about dorking. Dorking is something that is really, really overlooked by most of the hackers doing bug bounties. You can't know how much dorking is powerful if it's done in a very good way. You can't imagine. You can't imagine. Most of the people will just go for site and try to find some endpoints on that using dorking. But if you do it well, you are going to find so much things that you can't imagine about. So obviously, dorking is not going to get you vulnerabilities, but what it's going to do is that it's going to find for you some very good endpoints or maybe some passes that are going to lead you to finding vulnerabilities if you dig deeper. So don't see dorking as a vulnerability finder, but but you have to see it like a bridge. It just gives you a bridge between the assets and the vulnerabilities that you're going to find, because it's going to give you some really interesting things to look into. So be creative using your dorks. Have you sat sometimes and said, okay, let me create some dorks? I think most of the people haven't done that. So if you actually try, you can create some dorks which are going to be useful for you in the long term and that you can use every time. Use multiple search engines. Some people limit to Google, but you have to go for Google, Bing, Dork, Yandex, and every Baidu and every other search engine that you know of. Don't just stick to one specific search engine, but try to use everything, and create your own dorks. So dorking, this is some dorks which I have spent time finding and I have spent time doing, and I'm giving it to you today. This is so powerful, less known dorks people mostly don't know about. So if you put some brackets inside the dorks, you are going to find some results on Google that you might be not able to find if you don't put the brackets. So site, this operator restricts the research results to a specific site or domain. And the brackets with example and asterisks. The asterisks are wildcards that match any character. In this case, the dork will match any domain or subdomain that contains the word example. So inside the screenshot that we have here, we have tried this on Dyson. And we can see that the first result is Dyson.gp. The second one is Dyson.my. And so the third one is Dyson.shop with some things on the start. So just like this, if an org accepts everything they own, they are mostly likely going to have one word which is on mostly all of their domain names. For example, if we go for Yahoo, you might find Yahoo in every other domains that they own and they have. So you can also use, for example, this one Atlassian with a bracket and an asterisk at the end. And this is going to give you also some assets. Like, for example, we have Atlassian.com, but we have also Atlassian.design, and we have also Atlassian.net and .io. And you can also use this specific dork, which is also going to give you some results. If you don't put the brackets, you will get less results or maybe no results at all. We have also this dork, which leads to a lot of results if used correctly. So you also know about this one, I think. This operator restricts the search results. And so the idea here is that you have to create your own dorks so that you can find some interesting things on big targets. When dorking, as we said, we have to use multiple search engines. We have seen Google now. Now we are going to explore Bing and some features people might not know on Bing most of the time. Bing, the IP list, we got an IP list from the ASN in the first slides. And what we can do with Bing is that we can use Bing to find all the domains hosted on a web server using the dork IP and followed by the IP. And what this is going to do is that, for example, if we send it this specific IP, we are going to find some interesting hosts owned by that company, which are on that specific IP. So just by sending IP with the IP followed on Bing, you are going to get all the DNS names that are hosted on that specific IP or VHOST, if you like. And sometimes opening directly the subdomains we found here is going to give connection reset or not found, or it's just not loading. However, if you send the IP inside the target and you send back the subdomain we found on Bing in the host header, then it's magically going to load. So this is something that you might want to look into when you have the big list of IPs owned by a company. Go to Bing, use the dork, get back the hosts that are hosted on that specific IP. This is also something you can do using reverse DNS lookup. But I think that Bing has been very well successful to do that for me in the past years. So on Bing, you can also use in-body or in-strip set. This is going to give you way more also results than if you just use, for example, site example login, or if you use site example in-stream or in-body login, you are going to get way more results. You can see here than just for in-body login on fisglobal.com. We found around 4,000 results. So this is mostly going to give you a way bigger attack surface that you have to spend time on to find vulnerabilities. Tips and tricks. Gather all the links of targets using all techniques discussed. Send them to a reader and mass test. So when you have finally a good list of big IPs and subdomains of an org, now it's time for you to mass test. You can't just, let's say you have 100,000 assets of that specific company. You can't just open one by one to look inside this is not something that you can do. So most of the people, what they will do is that they will use Nuclei tool to find some quick wins. But the problem is that most people I know use Nuclei nowadays, and what you are going to find is mostly going to end up being duplicate. What I love doing is that I love visualizing what I have. So I love using Burp Suite Intruder and trying my payloads on that. So for example, here, what I did is that I'm going to send this specific payload, which is a server-side request forgery payload, inside the big list of subdomains and IPs we have. And just by sending it, this is some Apache misconfiguration. I can see that one of them popped up, and I could see SSH protocol being returned inside the response. So this is something that is very useful to know. You can just try sometimes server-side request forgery inside the first line of the request. So now finally, we are going to have a case study so that we can try to see what we have learned today. When I started to hack on FIS program, I found tons of domain names they own by using reverse whois. And by doing that, reverse whois using Woxy, we've got around 100,000 domain names which returns FIS inside their whois information. So obviously we can't go one by one and try to test everything. It will be impossible for me to dork also on all these domains together manually. And what I did is that I decided to take the hard way and code a tool to bypass search engine captchas and rate limits and others so that we can effectively use dorking on the whole list of domains that I have now. So as it was impossible to go and do it one by one, we decided to code a tool which is going to do that for us automatically and give us back all the results. To do that, we have to take care of bypassing captchas, rate limits. So for that, we have coded a tool that works very well. And after spending a couple of days coding my tool, I finally came up with a tool to dork on Google, Baidu, Bing, and other search engine, DuckDuckGo too. And what this tool expects is just engines and the dork that you want to run against the specific search engine. So my tool would take as input the dork and the engines to search on. So for example, here we sent it bash dork.sh, site fisglobal.com login, and engines Google and Bing, and we can see that we got some results back. So now that we have that, and we have a huge list of domains owned by FIS, what comes to mind is that we have to launch the dorking tool with a combination of different dorks on that big and huge attack surface that we have. This way, we find so much that is going to be so good to hack on in the future. So now we have a dork tool working on a huge list of domains. What next? Dork with all sites. So we can use a bash for loop or parallel or any other things. For I in cat list, we run the dorking with site, the website, and the term that we're searching for, which is login, for example, here. And we are going to find finally around 1 million. Is it? No, it's 100,000 results. So instead of just using, for example, site, example, and login only, I have done some permutations. For example, site, example, sign up, site, example, upload, admin, password request, password forgot, ASPX, PHP. So we are rinsing and repeating again and again on the same list of domains that we have. And we finally have 100 unique links. And just like this, we have a ton and 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 a ton to look into. So we started with just the domain names that we had of some orgs, and now we have like login panels, admin panels, upload form, parameters. So we have way more things to look into now. All the discovered links can be again crawled Katana to discover more and more endpoints passes, and then again sent to Linkfinder, and then again back to Katana, and then again to Linkfinder. It's a rinse and repeat process. So you find some links using dorking, you send it back to Katana, and then you are going now for directory fuzzing. You find some new passes, some new folders, some new files, sending again back to Katana to crawl again, and keep doing that again and again to find endless and infinite options of new attack surface on some platforms. And this process of rinsing and repeating and then again and again is going to bring you so much new subdomains, so much new domains, so much new endpoints, so much new login panels, so much new attack surface that you haven't seen in the past. So that's what I personally do. Every time I go back to my specific targets, I rinse and repeat. So I'm going to crawl again, fuzz again, crawl again, fuzz again, and keep doing that in a loop until like I'm tired and I haven't found anything. Do not forget directory fuzzing on all subpasses. For example, here inside the link that we had found from the dorking tool here on this specific line. And then we can brute force every folder, not just the web root. So it's not just, for example, google.com/fuzz and you just fuzz here. No, if you found some interesting things using dorking, some interesting folders and passes, you have to take in consideration to fuzz these specific passes on the end. So for example, in instance here, we have fuzzed the investor/login and /authorization path, as this is some valid folder on that specific website. So case study, during mass dorking on my target, this, which says host documentation / archive.zip. Lower. Okay. So during mass dorking on my target, I found a link similar to this, which says documentation branch/archive.zip. Upon downloading the archive, I found some credential inside a file. So we found the zip file using dorking. We downloaded the zip file. And then here we have, after decompressing the archive, we have found a file which contains some username and password binded inside of it. So we can see here credentials value equal client upload SVC and the password which is redacted here. Great, we have credentials, but what endpoint to hit with these credentials? Because even though we have found credentials, we don't know yet where to use those. So archive contained an X installer, and after installing the software on my VPS, we were left with some GLL files. And what we can do, obviously, with the GLL files is that we can decompile them using some decompiler. And then after doing that, and here, after saving the source code we got from the GLL files, we finally end up finding some localhost links binded inside the source code of it, which says localhost on some ports, and we have some web service.asmx endpoint that we found. And so what to do now? What to do now is that we're going to take that specific path and we are going to take the whole list of domains and IPs we have of that specific organization, and we are going to simply to brute force to be able to find some entry points for our credentials that we found with the endpoint. And luckily, we found some subdomains with the path we're looking for. we sent the right parameters it accepted XML content type, and we sent the credentials which we found inside the file before the zip file, and luckily we got back all the data of the company on that specific endpoint. So this is the end, and the takeaways that we have here is don't be afraid to try new things. If you have some ideas, maybe you can think that it won't work, but if no one is dead when trying, so you can just try and actually try what you have in mind. It might work. Maybe it's a new path for a new research that some people might not have discovered yet. So don't be afraid to try new things. Nothing is sure, nothing is unsure. Try what you have in mind and hope for the best. Spend a lot of time gathering intel about the organization, and hack when you feel like hacking. Don't obligate yourself to hack, or you might get not so good results. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm happy to be here today with you. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much, Hussein, for an amazing talk today. So if any of you guys have questions, so we have 8 minutes right now. Okay.
Thanks for a nice talk. I have a question about the methodology of which you described. As we see, hacking is quite a process. You need to keep up with all the things which are published. What would you recommend the person who don't keep up with this pace, and maybe can't sometimes feel that there is an overflow of information and I just feel like tired? What would you recommend to such person? Maybe switch to management, or yeah, do some business around cybersecurity, or maybe find some motivation inside. What do you say?
So Alexander here is going to have a great talk on fuzzing later on in the day. So thank you for the question. What I personally do, because I can't speak for everyone, but I think that I stick to what I love doing. I love doing dorking and this kind of recon, which is old school things. Some people nowadays like doing some new tools, doing some new techniques. I love sticking to what I love doing. I really want to enjoy the process. I don't want to just learn some new things. No, if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it. So I just keep stuck to what I enjoy doing, and it's working very well, you know, because the old methods are what the new methods are consisted of. This is what they get inspired from to make the new tools and stuff. So I keep doing what I love, which is basic recon, and I try once a week or twice a week to read some new blogs and some new exploits, like on the PT Swarm websites, and also from Asset Note with my friend Shubs, which publishes a lot of new CVEs and exploits that they found. And so that's how I like keeping up to date with the actual cybersecurity piece.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Any others? Okay.
The brackets in the site dork, is that a documented feature?
No, it's not. I've just found it by trying a lot.
Right, okay. And they go after the colon or after the asterisk?
So I can go back to it so you can take a picture. Oh, I think it's off. Yeah. So if we go back to the dorks, yeah. So if anyone wants to take notes of the dork that are here, I'll let you do. In 5 seconds, it's gone.
Cool. Okay, so were you sort
Next
of like
one.
running Intruder with some characters and stuff to test that out, or was it just completely?
Sorry, can you repeat?
To discover the brackets, is that your discovery, or
No. It was just manual, no intruder. So I've had a day off, and I said, okay, so today I'm going to try to find some things on Google that other people might not have found yet. So I just kept trying some stuff using dorking, and I finally found this specific thing was working. And it's not documented, but yeah, it's here. Now it has other ones if you want to take some notes. Anyone is taking some note of that? Yeah, good. So this one is, yeah. Do you have another question? No? There's someone in the back, I think. Someone there?
Okay, someone in the back? All right.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for the great talk. So I
Thank
have
you.
some question. The first one, you mentioned one case study about Twitter, and you found like secret header that if you insert that secret header, the application will return the result instead of the connection reset. So I would like to know, how do you know that secret header? Is it a common IP spoofing header? And I also have another question about your process. You mentioned that the bug bounty process is the repeated process. After you get access to some information, you add up into your word list and repeat the process again and again. So do you have the method that you store the information in the way that you can systematically check the older version, or you just simply store it in a text file?
Okay, thank you for the question. That's a great question. So for the IP thing, as we have seen inside the slides, is that when we sent the IP inside burp repeater, we got first connection reset. So if I understand well, you're asking how I knew that this specific IP was going to return that? Yes. So let's go back to... So anyways, there is a tool, yeah. So there's a tool called Angry IP Scanner on Windows. Some other people might use Nmap on Linux too, which is kind of the same, but I love doing Angry IP Scanner because I can have it on some VPS of mine, and then I can visualize. I like seeing stuff in front of me. And so by doing that, it shows that the domain is online with a host name. But when you open the IP without the host name, it's just going to give you back connection reset. And when you put the right domain name with that IP, it's then going to give you back the good results of that it should. So I suggest that you download Angry IP Scanner. And if you have any questions to try to set it up later, you can hit me up on Twitter and I will try to help you with that. And for the second questions about how I store the informations of bug bounty programs, I'm a text file guy, so I save everything in text files inside some directories that I have made from my target. So for example, let's say I'm hacking on FIS, it's just going to be inside the FIS folder. And I have, for example, 13th of May folder. You go inside, you find the data. And if I want some old data, I'm just going to browse the other folders, other dates. And that's how I can easily also grep for anything that I want to see if I need to remember something. I hope this helps. Yes.
Putting that in a GPT or something. There's a lot of information, rinse and repeat, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
It sounds like ideal to put this in a private-owned GPT to help you speed up the process. Is that something you've considered?
Yeah, I think this is something that I should think about, which is very doable. I have to run it then offline because I'm really afraid for anything to get leaked later on.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I said a private GPT. Don't put it out there.
Yeah, we have to do it. I think if all the hackers put all their work together and we train some GPTs, it's going to be some crazy things to have. It's a great weapon. There's someone in the back. Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. Well, would you mind sharing about how can you bypass the Google and maybe search engine rate limit and CAPTCHA?
Yeah, so this is a complicated thing. About the Google things, you have to, I think this one needs a talk itself. if you want to have to deep deeper into that. So to shorten things, we use a lot of proxies, which are very expensive. And also you have to code some tools so that you don't always send the same header. So for example, the user agent has to change on every request that you make. And you have to add some bunch of garbage data when sending the requests. So Google knows or doesn't know that you're a bot. So it's a combination of techniques that I have found that I have done on several search engines. So Google has some, Bing has some other things, DuckDuckGo has some other methods, and I've combined all of that together.
Thank you so much. Well,
Thank you.
Would be nice if you have another talk about this.
I hope so. We will think with the team.
First of all, thank you for the great talk.
Welcome.
I would like to ask about the VHOST identification, about the brute force and the host header. Does that method work on the Cloudflare protected host?
Oh, so what that so that we find actual hosts which are behind the Cloudflare and Akamai WAFs. So this won't work if you try it on IPs that are on Cloudflare. It won't work. But if you get all the IPs of the organization using the ASN, then you can brute force and maybe you can get the origin IP of the thing that you're looking for. So yeah, so here when we get the whole IP range owned by a company, from here, if you brute force everything with the subdomains, you are likely going to find the origin IP of the subdomain that you had, which was behind Cloudflare. So that's the main point of these techniques.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your great talk.
My pleasure.
I have a question about your methodology. As far as I understand, you talking about Katana and Linkfinder, and you training in between each other and send data between each other again and again. And I'm just curious why you're doing this, because as far as I know, those tools do the same things, and I just want to get the idea.
So can you repeat the last phrase?
I mean, you send in data between Katana and Linkfinder.
Yes.
So as far as I know, both tools doing the same things, and what's the idea behind to do this?
Yes. So Linkfinder is going to run mostly on the JavaScript files, and Katana is mostly going to crawl the website. So what Katana does is that it's going to follow back the links. So if there is example.com and there is a login link on that, it's going to follow the login link, and from there it's going again to follow all the other links. However, what Linkfinder is going to do is that when we pipe it some things, it's going to just give you back the passes. And inside these passes, there is mostly JavaScript files, which you can pipe again to Linkfinder to find endpoints which are inside the JavaScript files. So do you get the idea of what I'm saying? Yes.
So you can parse JavaScript files
Yes.
using Katana as well.
Okay, so I haven't tried the JavaScript thing on Katana, but I've been sticking with Linkfinder for a long time and it has been working for me. So that's why I'm keeping it simple and doing that again and again. But however, what I love doing again, as we said, is that when I find some specific passes and directories, I'm going to directory fuzz using FFuf and then send it back again to Katana and other tools, you know? So just keep, the main concept is not only about Katana and Linkfinder here, but it's about the rinse and repeat process that you have to do. It's the same process. Let it be for subdomain enumerations or anything else. Subdomain enumeration, if you find, for example, a dev.example.com, rinse and repeat, brute force, fuzz dev.example.com, and then again and again and again, keep doing some permutations until you find some hidden things that other people don't know about.
Right, guys, you will have an opportunity to ask some additional questions during the coffee break. So let's thank Hussein for his great speech, and then we'll be welcoming the next speaker.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, just go ahead.